A huge dream match has been scrapped from AEW All In. FTR have commented on a potential CMFTR versus the Elite match, and future plans for the WWE Tag Team titles have been revealed. Stay tuned for all the deets. So, All In is 2 weeks away, which means All Out is 3 weeks away, but let's focus back on All In. Now, All In, Wembley, biggest stadium in the country, I believe. It is hallowed ground in many respects, but in terms of the wrestling sphere, obviously not the exact same Wembley, but Wembley.
It's Wembley.
It's Wembley, right? You know, 1992, we had SummerSlam, AEW announced All In, it's going to be huge. We've got over 70,000 tickets. I think they've beat the SummerSlam.
They're currently, I think, saying it's 79,000 tickets.
Which is gargantuan.
Wow.
And the matches are starting to be announced thick and fast. But according to Fightful Select, AEW had pitched to have Kenny Omega versus Bryan Danielson be one of the featured matches on the AEW All In card in 2 weeks' time at Wembley. After Danielson broke his arm at Forbidden Door, however, there was hope backstage that he would be able to be healed in time to return for the big show. But due to the severity of the injury being worse than originally revealed, the match has ultimately had to be scrapped from the show.
It's so annoying. It is one. I mean, I know we've seen it before, but I think it's fair to say it is still a dream match to see, especially seeing the roles reversed. Last time we saw it, Kenny was the big bad heel world champion. Bryan Danielson was the fresh, brand new in AEW face.
Look, you don't need to give me any excuses. I've watched them wrestle 50 times in a row. Like
the fact that unfortunately the injury has derailed what would be arguably the biggest match they could put on in there, apart from CM Punk versus Kenny Omega.
Yeah.
It's a bit, it kind of sucks.
I still reckon Danielson could take Omega with one arm tied behind his back.
Yeah, I mean, he took Okada.
Yeah.
Like, he took Okada with a broken arm. You know, it's possible. It is a shame it's not going to happen. It's one, though, that I'm glad they are discussing.
Yeah, that's the thing is, there's been a lot of people kind of looking at the card, and we'll get to that in just a little bit, but there's been a lot of people looking at the card and kind of questioning a lot of the choices.
Yep.
But at the same time, it's good to know that they were thinking of like a big standout singles match to kind of, you know, especially a match of that epic,
that caliber
scale.
Yeah, right. Like they could do absolute magic in the ring, and in a stadium as big for AEW's biggest show, pure on attendance alone. Like, it's gonna hit that 80,000 mark. It's likely gonna break even more records before the 2 weeks are up, before we get to the show. It's a shame it's not going to be there. It would have absolutely nailed it.
Yeah, it would have been a hell of a match to see. But keeping it with All In and keeping it with surprising matches here. We've got Jon Moxley. We might not have Bryan Danielson.
Bryan Danielson, you WWE
Oh my God, I'm going to hand over all of my wrestling fan credentials. So we don't have Bryan Danielson, but we do have Jon Moxley. What's the crack here, Fraser?
So the Wrestling Observer is reporting that AEW is planning on having Jon Moxley featured on the card, which is great. But it's kind of a surprising match because he's going to be teaming with Claudio Castagnoli and Wheeler Yuta to take on the team of Eddie Kingston, Orange Cassidy, and a mystery partner.
Ooh.
It's not been revealed who they have in mind for that mystery role. My mind's jumping to maybe Ishii. Bringing in someone from New Japan and getting them on the card.
I'd throw all my money at you again for that.
It'd be great. However, it's kind of surprising because you would think that you'd have maybe Jon Moxley versus Orange Cassidy.
Yeah.
They've been teasing that one for the AEW International Championship.
Screw that. Put it on an American show instead in a smaller venue.
It's the international belt. That should be defended.
Screw it. No, America's part of the international community. Do it in America.
Sam's
World Series, World Cup. Just do it all in America.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, it's put all your focus all out. But it's also a little bit strange not have Eddie Kingston versus Claudio Castagnoli on the show in a singles match for the Ring of Honor World title. So it's kind of surprising that AEW is going, we're going to put them in a 6-man tag, and I imagine they'll follow up the storylines the following week at All Out. It's a little bit, I don't know.
It kind of feels like you're just keeping talent fresh, which I understand, but Wembley, man.
And trying to pack as many people on. I've no doubt this will be a great 6-man. It's not maybe the match we all wanted to see. I don't know. Let us know in the comments below. Maybe
let us know how you feel about it.
Maybe it is the match you wanted to see, but we'll run down the card.
I mean, alongside this as well, just real quick, the report also notes that Chris Jericho is planned to take on Ospreay on the show, so that'd be a hell of a standout, one-on-one match. We know that that's going to be, potentially a great encounter between the pair. But as you said, we'll take turns running down the card, I guess. We got Aussie Open versus Better Than You, Baby.
FTR versus the Young Bucks.
Hikaru Shida versus Tony Storm versus Saraya versus Team TBD.
Darby Allin and Sting versus the Mogul Embassy in a coffin tag team match.
And then MJF versus Adam Cole.
Yeah, so it's a big show. That's for the world title.
Double duty there.
Yeah, they're challenging for the Ring of Honor tag team titles at the start of the night. I think they're winning them. And then going to the main event as tag champs.
And as you might have noticed there when we ran down the card, Saraya has been added to the Women's Championship Fatal 4-Way match after beating Sky Blue on last night's AEW Rampage. Just to keep you up to speed, just to spoil Rampage for you all there, just to spoil what's coming forward for All In.
Yeah, Rampage last night, she had a decent match with Sky Blue. I'm just glad that we're getting a Brit on the card, we're getting Saraya on the card.
Yeah.
I think she might take the belt and have a hometown pop. Because she'll be a face, right?
I mean, there's no way that people aren't going to cheer Saraya.
Exactly. It's our comeback. It is our comeback to the UK. It's our comeback story. She could get that big women's championship victory. I think it's going to happen.
Now, one thing that recently kind of took the wrestling world by a confusing storm of funny and weird was the Mountain Dew Pitch Black match and the Cinnamon Toast Crunch match. And
love that one.
All of the associated themed matches that have been coming in on the WWE side. Now, obviously, AEW no stranger at this. We've had a Cracker Barrel match before, and we are continuing the old trend. So it was announced on AEW Rampage that Jeff Jarrett is going to be taking on Jeff Hardy in a Texas Chainsaw Massacre death match. It's going to be on this week's Dynamite. It's a tie-in for the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre game that releases next week. But, I mean, if you're not dueling with chainsaws and if you're not both dressed like Leatherface or at least Jeff Jarrett's got to be dressed like creepy granddad in the corner.
He's got to surely. Do we get a Chainsaw Charlie appearance?
I want them to just come out to that sound, that kind of noise from the film. That should just be playing through the whole match.
The fact that Jeff Jarrett and Jeff Hardy in 2023 are having a Texas Chainsaw Massacre death match on a weekly episode of Dynamite is just baffling.
There's a couple of caveats here. I will enjoy it only if the winner has to jump into the back of a truck covered in blood and they're kind of laughing as they're being driven up the ramp, and then the loser's just standing there swinging a chainsaw around wildly, and then they accidentally cut themselves, and then the film just fades to black.
Face to black that. But
that's it. Those are my grounds. Otherwise, I am going to absolutely go off.
I think it's going to be filled with a ton of shenanigans like that. For example, we know that Jeff Jarrett has said that he wants his squad with him. Jeff Hardy's going to have his squad with him. It's going to probably be absolute chaos. And honestly, Jeff Jarrett is one of the most entertaining things on AEW TV just now. You know, we had the chat with Tom the other week. It's on the channel now.
High tea with Tom Campbell.
High tea with Tom Campbell. What a gimmick Tom has got himself there. Some afternoon tea with Jeff Jarrett. What a conversation they had about AEW All In. And I spoke to Greg Miller on the podcast feed on Desert Island Graps, the man who Jeff Jarrett attacked this past week with a guitar for promoting WrestleQuest. Which has unfortunately been delayed. But
I can't wait to check out WrestleQuest.
It's going to be good fun. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Well, keeping it with AEW once again, and you touched on the fact that one of the bigger matches, or possibly the biggest match we could have at Wembley, would be Omega versus Punk, because people just want to see those two tear each other, and you bum. So basically, speaking with DAZN Wrestling about a possible match between CMFTR and the Elite, which I think is logically the first step toward that. If we ever get there, you kind of need that team-on-team thing before you build toward the single match. But Dax Harwood said on that, I think the cards fall. I think if the cards fall in the right place, and the story's right and the opportunity calls for it, then hell yeah, we can do it. Hell yeah,
come on,
hell yeah. Cash Wheeler followed that up by saying it's hard to know with all the moving parts that are involved, and I don't want to speak for everybody, but I think wrestling's all about making the most money for yourselves and for the company you work for, and I think that everybody here all agrees with that. And the more the time passes, the more likely I think it is that we can get to there, but you never really know, and I don't want to say yes, but I hope so. And this is what we've been saying this for a long time now. It's just like, think of the money. Think of the money. Blood feud.
Think of the money, and I hope so. It's the two, and it's nice to see the two sides. That clearly,
you could theme a whole pay-per-view around it,
right?
You could charge whatever you wanted for that, but the more it goes on, I think the less buzz there is about it.
Right, but I guess with Collision now, you've kind of got a roster there that's a staple. You could build up Colliders versus Dynamiters, Kaboomers. What are we calling
Kaboomers?
Kaboomers, is that Dynamite? Colliders versus Kaboomers. You can build that up over time. You could do an invasion sort of angle if you really wanted to, led by
just
CM
do the
Punk
NWO.
FTR.
We're the NWO.
Kind of getting a little taste of it at All In, FTR versus the Young Bucks. It's the closest we'll likely come to it for now.
This is maybe like the Resident Evil Zero of the series that we're hopefully going to see along the line. But moving over to the WWE side of the fence right now. This one comes from the Wrestling Observer, and apparently while nothing is concrete going forward with WWE's Women's Tag Team Championships, there's been a talk of a tournament to crown new champions. However, WWE currently has a massive shortage of women's names, of women's tag teams, with only Chance and Carter and Dawn and Fire existing on the main roster right now, which is sickening.
Yeah, there's literally only the 2 tag teams right now because, Liv is out injured, so he's not with Raquel.
This division has been cursed. From the second they got those belts, it's just been horribly, horribly cursed. Now, obviously, Sonya Deville underwent reconstructive surgery on her ACL this past week with a record recovery time of around 8 months, apparently. And Chelsea Green's been auditioning people on Twitter to be a new tag team partner.
Been a lot of fun.
So we might see something there to give us a third team, but you kind of need more than 3 teams. You can't just be slapped together like, oh, well, let's go for it. You can get maybe 1 or 2 teams like that. And especially when you do the odd couple stuff, like Rock and Sock Connection style, just weird people that shouldn't work together. I like that, but you can't just slap a load of people together and go, hey, it's a tournament.
They're a team now,
because there's only like 3 actual teams or whatever.
I'm intrigued though, because it was sort of assumed earlier in the week that Chelsea Green had vacated the women's tag team titles. However, she's in possession of both belts. She's been auditioning people on Chelsea's Got Talent on Twitter, and she's been posting the audition tapes. One of them, Matt Cardona. Matt Cardona was one of them, and he was auditioning for the role. I think WWE, if they are able to pivot plans to embrace Chelsea Green as the solo women's tag team champion and maybe have her bring in random people. That's when an odd pairing where it's just put together, slapped together last minute would really be a lot of fun.
You don't even need talent though to do it. You could be bringing in people from like backstage who are obviously, you don't know who the backstage staff are. They'll probably be independent wrestlers, but you bring in like makeup people or lighting or camera people and have her do the bulk of the wrestling and just not bother tagging them in. There's so many different things you could do, or you could just have her defend them on her own. But I think you're right in the way that this should hopefully eventually lead to something good in terms of like a bit of an odd pairing.
The other option is turn Emma heel, put her with Chelsea. They feel like a perfect fit, like a sequel to her and Sonya. So maybe we'll see that. But it is a cursed tag team division.
But moving over to the men's tag division right now, this is another one from the Observer. Apparently WWE is not planning on stripping Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens of the undisputed WWE Tag Team Championships, despite both of them currently being out of action with injuries. Zayn is currently suffering from a bursa sac infection, while Kevin Owens has been given time off to recover from a broken rib. So I mean, hopefully they're just kind of quick windows of time that we're going to not have them around, and maybe there's a way we can kind of implement them without them having to do any wrestling, where you're still going to be able to have that kind of touching base with the talent. So I think that it's not so bad there, but it just depends on how long it draws out for. Right?
We kind of saw that on Raw this past week. Sami Zayn appeared on Raw, was scheduled to be in the main event, 6-man tag, but then got attacked backstage by JD McDonough with that elbow infection. So yeah, it looks like maybe he'll stick around on TV a little bit, but I'm glad that they're not taking the titles off, because the story going into WrestleMania, the main event of WrestleMania Night 1,
feel like such a sad end to it.
So deflating when you've got a lot of options. Unlike the women's tag division, you've got a lot of options in the men's division right now that you could put the belts on without stripping them off the belts.
I agree. Well, keep it with us here. If there's any more wrestling news that breaks over the day, we will be back with another video. But in the meantime, we've got plenty of stuff up on the channel through the week. If you've missed out, make sure you check it all out. We've got a video from Ross where he's breaking down who should dethrone every champ, which is already out of date. Thank you, SmackDown. But do check it out. There's a lot of interesting takes he's got there. And whether you agree or not, just let him know in the comments. We've got an exciting new True Story of vid. We've got an AEW flavored tier list and an all new list video.
So much content.
There's loads of stuff coming.
Just get consuming it. The weather's a bit rainier now.
It's a bit naff. Just get on your telly. Get some popcorn on the go. Tie bye.